Well, folks, the Champions League is back, and so is Manchester City's favorite pastime, blowing leads like a budget airline losing luggage. In what can only be described as Champions League PTSD, the sequel, Real Madrid turned the Etihad into their own backyard, snatching a 3-2 win in the dying minutes. And honestly, we all should have seen it coming. Haaland bagged a brace, City fans mocked Vinicius before the match, and then Real Madrid did what Real Madrid does, late-game robbery at its finest. It's almost like Madrid players have a contract clause that says, if losing after the 85th minute, activate superpowers. 1. The game in a nutshell, City's lead management issues. Let's break down the game, shall we? Manchester City scored first because, of course, they did. Then they scored again because, sure, why not? And then Real Madrid waited patiently like a cat stalking a pigeon before slapping City's dreams off the ledge in the final minutes. Here's how it unfolded. Haaland scores early. City fans start practicing their parade routes. Mbappe equalizes. Madrid fans yawn, knowing the real action hasn't even started. Haaland converts a penalty. City fans put down their Real Madrid are finished tweets. Ederson commits football treason. Brahim Díaz levels the score. Bellingham ends City's night faster than a battery-low warning on your phone. And just like that, City fans went from singing "Stop Crying Your Heart Out" to actually crying their hearts out. Life comes at you fast. Manchester City treating leads like they're hot potatoes, holding on to them for a few minutes before yeeting them into oblivion. Seriously, if you gave Pep Guardiola a briefcase full of cash, he'd somehow end up losing half of it in stoppage time. At this point, City's Champions League strategy is just an elaborate social experiment to see how many different ways they can throw away a lead. They led twice. Twice. That's like a chef perfectly plating a Michelin star meal, only to trip and faceplant into it before serving. Haaland must feel like he's starring in a tragic play. Imagine scoring twice and still losing. This man is out here putting in work while his defense is auditioning for a part-time role at a haunted house, because they disappear when it matters most. If City's defense was a Netflix show, it'd be called Unfinished Business, because every episode ends in unresolved trauma. And let's not forget the expected goals, XG numbers. City created 1.6 XG, while Madrid created 3.42. That's like playing poker, going all in with a pair of twos and getting mad when your opponent flips over a royal flush. You knew the odds. Manchester City managing leads is like a toddler managing a juice box. First, they're holding on to it with confidence. Then suddenly there's a mess everywhere, and they're standing there wondering what went wrong. Real Madrid is that one guy at a party who shows up late, says nothing for 2 hours, then steals your girl and the aux cord in the last 5 minutes. Watching City's defense in the last 10 minutes is like watching someone try to defuse a bomb in an action movie. They're cutting random wires, hoping something works, and then, boom. And to cap it off, they managed to lose a UCL game they were leading at halftime for the first time since 2018. That's right, City just said, hey, you know what record we haven't broken yet? Let's break our fans' hearts in a new way. Once again, here's how it unfolded. In the case you missed it the first time, Haaland scores early, at 19th minute. City fans start practicing their parade routes. Mbappe equalizes 60th minute. Madrid fans yawn, knowing the real action hasn't even started. Haaland converts a penalty. 80th minute. City fans put down their Real Madrid are finished tweets. Ederson commits football treason. 86th minute. Brahim Díaz levels the score. Bellingham ends City's night faster than a battery-low warning on your phone. 92nd minute. And just like that, City fans went from singing "Stop Crying Your Heart Out" to actually crying their hearts out. Life comes at you fast. 2. The Real Madrid comeback. It's not magic, it's tradition. At this point, Madrid's comeback ability is so consistent it should be trademarked. You know it's coming, but you still sit there, hopeful, thinking, maybe this time will be different. Spoiler alert, it won't be. Jude Bellingham, a man who has never experienced stress in his life, tapped in the winner like he was finishing a casual five-a-side game. Real Madrid should honestly consider selling last-minute heartbreak as an NFT. It's their most reliable asset. And let's not forget Vinicius, who, despite City fans taunting him with a "Stop Crying Your Heart Out" banner before kickoff, ended the night assisting the winner. That's what we call poetic justice, ladies and gentlemen. At this point, Real Madrid should start every Champions League game by spotting the opponent a lead, just to keep things interesting. They don't play football, they orchestrate cinematic third-act comebacks. Hollywood should be taking notes. If Real Madrid were a horror movie villain, they'd be the one that gets stabbed, shot, thrown off a cliff, and still walks out of the rubble fixing their tie. You don't beat Real Madrid, You just exist in a temporary state of not losing until the 85th minute. Watching Madrid in the Champions League is like watching your phone's battery drop from 10% to 1%. You know the end is coming, but you're just staring at the screen in denial. Now, let's talk about Madrid's comeback formula, patented since 1955. Step 1. Give the opponent a false sense of security. City fans singing, "It's coming home"? Good, let them enjoy it. Step 2. Spend 80 minutes looking vaguely competent but unbothered. Why stress? It's just the Champions League. Step 3. The opponent starts thinking, maybe, just maybe, this time we've got them. Step 4. Madrid activates late-game heroics TM. Step 5. Tears, disbelief, and football Twitter goes into meltdown mode. Real Madrid didn't just win this match. They waited until the absolute last moment to steal it. It's like watching a student party all semester, then pull an all-nighter and somehow ace the final exam. At this point, Jude Bellingham probably sets his alarm for the 85th minute, rolls out of bed, and casually scores a game winner before heading back to sleep. Brahim Díaz scoring from an Ederson howler. Classic Madrid. Bellingham scoring in stoppage time. Standard procedure. The only thing missing was Luka Modric drinking a post-match espresso like it was all part of the plan. Real Madrid is that friend who shows up late to a group project, does one slide, and somehow gets all the credit. They're the football equivalent of a chess grandmaster playing blindfolded, casually letting you think you're winning before checkmating you in 3 moves. If Manchester City plays like an F1 car, fast, efficient, and structured, then Madrid plays like a mafia boss, slow, calculating, and ruthless when it matters. What makes this even more hilarious is how calm Madrid fans were during the match. City fans were stressing, pacing, hyperventilating. Meanwhile, Madrid fans were sipping coffee, fully expecting another Champions League miracle. And they weren't wrong. Manchester City play football like an engineering project. Real Madrid play football like an ancient prophecy. And guess which one always wins? Guardiola had tactics. Ancelotti had vibes. And sometimes that's all you need. Bottom line, you can change players, managers, stadiums, hell, even football itself, but one thing remains the same. Madrid in the Champions League is inevitable. 3. City's defense. If chaos had a football club. Pep Guardiola's tactical masterclass lasted 85 minutes, and then it collapsed like a cheap lawn chair. Ederson out here making decisions that have MI5 investigating him for sabotage. And let's talk about that defense, or whatever City calls the 4 guys standing around when the ball goes in their net. Diaz looked like he was solving an algebra equation mid-clearance. Akanji and AK were so generous I'm convinced they donated Madrid's 2nd and 3rd goals to charity. The defensive awareness? Non-existent. It was like watching people try to solve a Rubik's Cube while blindfolded. The stats don't lie either. City have now blown 4 Champions League games this season where they scored first. If holding on to leads was an Olympic event, City would be banned for performance deficiency enhancers. Manchester City's defense in this match was like a group of tourists trying to read a map upside down, lost, confused, and inevitably heading in the wrong direction. Ederson, usually as reliable as a Swiss watch, decided to channel his inner juggler, gifting Brahim Díaz an equalizer. It's as if he thought, why not make this interesting? Here, have a goal. Rico Lewis, bless his heart, looked like a deer caught in headlights when Vinicius Jr. pounced on his hesitation, leading to Bellingham's stoppage-time winner. It's a harsh lesson. In the Champions League, indecision is the deadliest sin. The backline, supposedly fortified by Guardiola's tactical genius, crumbled under pressure. It was less Great Wall of Manchester and more Leaning Tower of defensive errors. Statistically speaking, City have now made 14 errors leading to goals this season in all competitions. Only Southampton has more in Europe's top 5 leagues. It's a dubious honor, like winning a pie-eating contest but realizing the pies were filled with regret. Watching City's defense was like watching a group of synchronized swimmers who forgot how to swim, splashing around with no coordination. If City's defense were a Wi-Fi signal, it would drop just when you need it the most, leaving everyone frustrated and disconnected. Their attempt at holding the line was akin to using a colander to carry water, full of holes and ultimately futile. In the end, City's defensive display was a masterclass in how to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Guardiola must be tearing out what remains of his hair, wondering how his meticulously crafted plans unraveled into such disarray. 4. Fan reactions. From banter to backfire. Manchester City fans. From stop crying to start crying. Before the match, City fans were out here throwing shots at Vinicius Jr., unveiling a massive "Stop Crying Your Heart Out" banner. Fast forward 90 minutes, and guess who's got tissues in hand? Spoiler, not Vinicius. City fans had the audacity to taunt a man who has a PhD in clutch moments. That's like poking a bear and then acting surprised when it eats you. Somewhere in Madrid, Rodrigo and Benzema were watching the match and laughing because once again, the Madrid late-game robbery script came through. After Haaland's penalty, City fans started acting like they had already booked their hotel for the final in Wembley. Meanwhile, Real Madrid fans were just sitting back, sipping sangria, waiting for their inevitable comeback. And let's talk about the atmosphere at the Etihad. When Madrid were behind, you could still hear their fans chanting. Meanwhile, City fans were filming Haaland's celebrations instead of actually, supporting their team. What's next? Watching the game through Instagram Live instead of their own eyes? Real Madrid fans, cool, calm, and inevitable. Real Madrid fans before the game, City is tough, but we're Real Madrid. Real Madrid fans after Haaland's second goal, unbothered. Real Madrid fans when Bellingham tapped in the winner, we told you so. Madrid fans are built different. You'd think going down twice would cause some stress, but no. These people expect last-minute winners like it's a contractual obligation. Somewhere in the Bernabéu offices, there's probably a break glass in case of emergency sign, and behind it, there's just a picture of Bellingham. Madrid supporters didn't even break a sweat. When Brahim Díaz equalized, they just smiled knowingly, like a seasoned gambler who already knew the deck was stacked in their favor. Neutral fans, absolute chaos and peak entertainment. And then we have the neutrals, the ones who just tuned in for the drama. And boy, did they feast. You had Arsenal fans laughing at City's pain. You had United fans saying same old City while conveniently ignoring their own problems. You had Chelsea fans watching just for fun, because let's be honest, their season ended months ago. Every neutral watching this match had the same reaction when Bellingham scored. Hands on head, pure disbelief, and a tweet that started with "no way," followed by 17 exclamation marks. By the 92nd minute, X, had turned into a Real Madrid appreciation page, with half the posts being "never count Madrid out," and the other half being Guardiola memes. City fans before the game were like students who didn't study but still walked into the exam saying, "This'll be easy." Spoiler, it wasn't. Madrid fans at halftime were like chefs letting their stew simmer, knowing the real flavor comes in the last few minutes. Neutrals watching this match were like kids watching their divorced parents argue, just enjoying the show with popcorn in hand. In football, there's a fine line between confidence and tempting fate. And City fans? They tempted fate, all right. They wrote the check and Real Madrid happily cashed it with interest. So the lesson here? Never poke a sleeping giant, never bet against Real Madrid in the Champions League, and for the love of football, if you're going to make a banter banner, at least win the match. 5. The broader implications. Will City ever learn? So what does this mean for City? Well, they now have to head to Madrid, where history tells us their chances of winning are about as high as a Wi-Fi signal in the Sahara. Meanwhile, Real Madrid go into the second leg with their usual Champions League cheat codes activated. At this point, they don't even play football. They conduct football seances and summon the ghosts of Zidane and Ramos to do the job. And let's not forget Guardiola, who will now spend the next 7 days overthinking his tactics so hard that by the time the second leg arrives, Haaland might be playing as a defensive midfielder. At this point, we have to ask the question, does Manchester City enjoy suffering? Do they thrive on emotional damage? Because how many times do you need to touch the electric fence before realizing, maybe, just maybe, Real Madrid will always zap you in the Champions League? Manchester City in the Premier League, an unstoppable dominant machine. Up to last season. Manchester City in the Champions League against Real Madrid, a confused toddler trying to hold onto a balloon in a windstorm. Guardiola's squad spends all season preparing to dominate Europe, and then the moment they meet Madrid, their game plan disintegrates faster than a budget airline's baggage policy. Now that the second leg is at the Bernabéu, Pep has officially entered his overthinking era TM. Right now, in some dark corner of the Etihad campus, he's drawing up a Champions League master plan that includes Haaland as a false six, Ederson playing center-back, and a surprise 2-2-6 formation just to keep Ancelotti on his toes. We all know how this goes. Pep spends 95% of the season getting everything right, only to throw a tactical Hail Mary in Madrid that makes everyone go, wait, what? This is the same man who once benched Rodri and played no defensive midfielders in a UCL final. So be prepared for some Galaxy brain lineup featuring John Stones as a roaming striker. Meanwhile, in Madrid, Carlo Ancelotti is sipping his espresso, unfazed, casually plotting another Champions League masterclass with the tactical complexity of just let Madrid do Madrid things TM. Pep is probably designing 15 new formations on a whiteboard, Ancelotti is just leaning back thinking, Bellingham in the 92nd minute again? Yeah, that sounds good. If Guardiola is a high-strung scientist in a lab, Ancelotti is an old-school hitman who already knows where to strike. He doesn't overcomplicate things. He just wins. At this point, Madrid don't even prepare for these games. They manifest them. They're like a movie villain who lets you win the first fight, just to come back stronger in the sequel. This loss is more than just one bad game. It's a reminder that City still have a mental block when it comes to closing the deal in Europe. They're like a student who aces all the coursework but freezes up during the final exam. They're the football equivalent of a guy who goes on an amazing date, makes the girl laugh, walks her home, and then forgets to ask for her number. City have built a billion-pound super team, mastered positional play, and still can't figure out how to not crumble in the 90th minute. And let's not forget, this isn't just any loss. It's a loss to Madrid. Again. At some point, this isn't just a rivalry. It's a real-life football curse. Manchester City playing Real Madrid in the Champions League is like trying to beat your grandpa at chess. No matter how good you think you are, he's been doing this longer and will still checkmate you with a casual smirk. It's like going to a casino, betting your life savings against the house and expecting to win. You just know how this ends. Pep Guardiola preparing for Madrid is like a chef trying to perfect a dish by adding 47 extra ingredients, while Ancelotti just slaps salt and olive oil on it and still makes a Michelin star meal. So now City have to go to Madrid and do what very few have done, win at the Bernabéu. And let's be honest, their confidence going into that match is probably about as high as Ederson's save percentage in stoppage time. Can they pull off a miracle? Maybe. But if history tells us anything, it's that Real Madrid in the Champions League is less of a football team and more of a force of nature. And right now, City look like they're standing in front of an incoming storm, holding a tiny umbrella. 6. Closing thoughts, chaos, tears, and the Madrid effect. Look, we've learned some valuable lessons here. Never taunt Vinicius Jr. before a match. It only ends in pain. Never trust Manchester City to hold a lead in the Champions League. Real Madrid will always find a way. The second leg is coming, and I promise you it's going to be another episode of Manchester City Champions League therapy sessions. But what do you think? Will City actually pull off a miracle, or is Madrid already printing their semi-final tickets? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like and subscribe for more football chaos. Until next time, pray for Pep.